without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Jack H. from San Jose.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jack Holt, an alcoholic. I feel real good right at the moment because Dave just handed me a little note. Says, Jack, remember, we love you. And I love you. All of you. And every time I come to a convention or every time I speak, I feel sort of like the fifth husband of Liz Taylor must have felt. I know what I got to do, but I wonder how to make it interesting. As you can see, I believe in levity in our program. I believe that he can't laugh and Alcoholics Anonymous is sick. I'd like to welcome the newcomers. You know, among people who have a deep understanding of your problem. And if you're here and you're not an alcoholic or not the mate of an alcoholic, then you're sicker than we are. So, but we're glad to see you. We're glad to see you anyway. My life, a little bit what I used to be like. The first 9 years of my life, I was stone sober. I didn't have a drink. And I got drunk helping my dad bottle homebrew. I was born and raised in the state of Tennessee out on the farm, 17 miles out of town, with nothing but cows and horses and things of that nature. And so my dad used to make homebrew every summer. He was not an alcoholic, but I was helping him bottle homebrew, and I was up in the loft of the attic where you put it up there where it would work in the heat. And every time I'd fill up a bucket, I'd take a little sip. When I got drunk, fell out of the damn loft. That was my first experience with alcohol. And as I remember, I was sick. I didn't like it, so I didn't drink anymore for 5 years. At the age of 14 years old, I was at I don't know anybody here from Oklahoma or the South or not, but I was at an Okie Stomp. I see there's some here. Texas has those things too. And I was at an Okie Stomp, and I was a bashful kid, timid. And everybody was dancing and having a lot of fun, and I didn't know how. So somebody offered me about a half a teacup full of White Lightning, that Tennessee White Lightning. I had about a half a teacup full of that, and hell's bells, man, I'll tell you, I came alive. I said, man, I have met the greatest friend that mankind could meet, because it took away all of my inhibitions, my fears. I felt 10 feet wide and 20 feet tall. Nothing bothered me. I had another half a cup and passed out. I never did drink for, I don't know whether I ever drank for fun or not. I suppose I did. But anyway, I didn't drink anymore after that for a little while. I was back another one of these dances, and a guy had brought in some of this White Lightning, and it was bad stuff. It was poison. I had a half a teacup full of that and fell on my face. And they had to send for my dad. And then they sent for the doctor. And in those days, they didn't have stomach pumps, and I almost died from alcohol, and they couldn't get it out of me any other way except to cram pure lard down my throat till I vomited. And to this day, I don't like grease of any kind. But you see, it never crossed my mind at the age of 15 years old to stop drinking. Not once. I said, well, I won't drink any more of this White Lightning for about 6 months. I'll drink homebrew. Well, I started drinking Tennessee homebrew again. Well, you take a cork out of a bottle of Tennessee homebrew, and blue smoke will curl in the air about 4 feet. 4 bottles of that, and you're scratching your watch and winding your ass and wondering where you are. And 6 months later, I went back to drinking again. White Lightning, or any other kind. At the age of 18 years old, I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I want to join the Navy. He said, where's the papers? I'll sign them. Didn't give me any trouble at all. So at the age of 18, I became a member of the United States Navy, and that was 1939, January the 25th. I went to Norfolk, Virginia for a boot camp, shipped around here to the West Coast in San Diego, and the old USS Milwaukee. We then leased to Russia. And I came to San Diego, and I was introduced to your wine here in California. And I found out that could, you could really get drunk on that too. So I got good and drunk on wine. In 1940, there came a chance to go to China. So I put in for a transfer to China, and the executive officer signed the papers immediately. He didn't seem like anybody give a damn whether I stayed around or not at that time. So I landed in Hong Kong, China in March of 1940. That was the utopia of the alcoholic. So I'll tell you right now, the Asiatic fleet was just that, Asiatic. Drink, fight, and raise hell. That was the name of the game. And I became involved out there in doing that, drinking and fighting and raising hell. And I was 19 years old. And I stayed out there along the South China coast, went into Peking, all through the Philippines and down into Australia, and fought with the British and the Dutch and under their commands and the American command, retreated into Australia, got the hell kicked out of us, and became involved. And I got back to the States in 1942. And I can stand here tonight and tell you that my war record and the battles I was in caused me to be an alcoholic. That would be a damn lie. I was safer in a sea battle than I was on a beach with a quart of whiskey. I'll tell you that, because I was the kind of a guy that walk off in a swimming pool with no water in it, walk off in a dry dock looking for my ship. We alcoholics are funny people. We're great people. I love us, every damn one of us. We've lived lives that nobody else has lived. That's why no one can understand us exactly except another alcoholic, and one is married to one. So in this time when I came back to the States in 1942, I landed in San Francisco. They promised us 30 days leave. Well, they gave us 5 days leave. Well, it took me 5 days to get down to San Jose and back to San Francisco. And that's only a 100-mile trip, a round trip. But there's a lot of bars along the way. So I drank in all these bars. So they court-martialed with those things. But before I was 21 years old, I'd been court-martialed 3 times. And the captain called me down to his cabin and he says, "Holt, I want to talk to you like a father." Well, you know what somebody says, they want to talk to you like a father when you're an alcoholic. You just reach out, zip, you pull down the shade. So I listened to him, and I remember what he said. He said, "I am going to give you 3 days liberty in San Francisco. I want you to go ashore. I want you to pay particular attention to the people that's sleeping in the gutter with the head on the curb and sleeping in the doorways, because that's where you're going to be before you're 25. And if you don't straighten up, I'm going to help put you there." I said, "Thank you, sir." And I took his 72 hours leave and went over and got drunk. I don't know where the hell I went. You can't scare an alcoholic with these kind of things. I had no desire to stop drinking. I had never heard of an alcoholic then. Hadn't even crossed my mind. The only thing was in you was a damned old drunk, or a damn young drunk, or a nut, which we still are. So I became, this first trip down to San Jose, I met a lady, and she's with me tonight. She's my wife, Alice. We've been married 43 years last December, and it's her fault, not mine. But we have had one hell of a life together. I gave her 15 years of drinking. I've given her more of that sober. But to go on with my drinking life, after her and I told her I was, convinced her that I was a $2 million tobacco plantation owner in the state of Tennessee. I didn't even have enough money to buy a marriage license. But by God, she took me on, and we've been at it ever since. And so I stayed in the Navy until went all the way into Tokyo Harbor. And they tried to get me to stay in, make a career out of it, but I knew that Seven Oceans, Jack Holt, the United States Navy wasn't going to mix. They were too big, so I'd better move. So I went out. Came out of the Navy in 1945 and became a civilian. Started to work, worked hard, drank hard, had 2 kids, and this is all in the 1940s, or late 1940s. As I look back at it now, I see the disease progressing, getting worse and worse as I went along. I went into business for myself, and like most of us alcoholics, I made money. And the more money I made, the more I drank, until it turned the other way. The more I drank, the less money I made. So these kind of things happen to us. And so this is all the late 40s, early 50s, going into that. I became a mean alcoholic during some of these times. So I'd tell Alice, I said, "You get the kids and get the hell out of the house." When I came home drunk, because I was an arrogant damn drunk. On the way home, I'd work up a big fight. And by the time I hit the front door, I said, "By God, this is my house. If anybody's going to leave, it's going to be you." Well, she'd meet me feeling about the same way. And I'll tell you right now, we had some damn good fights. In fact, I went home one time and I could walk around like a zombie when I was drinking, not know where I was. I could walk around for hours that way. I went home one time and I was standing on the front porch with my finger upon the doorbell and my head upon the screen door and passed out in that position. I could do that. So she opened the door and hit me right through the screen door and knocked me down the stairs. And I got up the next morning, I went and looked in the mirror and had all these little pimples. I said, "By God, I haven't got the measles again, honey." She says, "You haven't got the measles." I hit you through the screen door last night. And I used to go home, and I'd lay back in my big chair, and I'd cross my feet, and we wore shoelaces in our shoes in those days. She'd tie my shoelaces together, my feet together, and give me a hot foot with a great big wooden match. And I'd get up and stumble all over the house and tear up the furniture. But, you know, she said, well, you know, she loved me. She was trying to keep me, I guess. But I was telling her, I said, you know, in all these fights, you never wind up with any bruises. And I'm bruised all over. But I couldn't remember nothing. So this is the life of the alcoholic, you know, when he's drunk and ready to know. But I had, in the early 50s, you know, I always liked to drink with somebody. I never was too much of a lone drinker. I would drink alone or with somebody, but I always liked to have somebody around. Well, I get so drunk I couldn't get out of the house. So I had a little parakeet, and his name was Petey. And one day I had a jigger of whiskey, and I set it up on the dining room table. And Petey just waltzed over, you know, and he had a couple of snorts out of that jigger. And let me tell you right now, he turned on like I did at the age of 15. He became an alcoholic. And right away, you know, he started drinking with me. So he and I get on these big drunks together in the house. Alice and the kids would be out of the house, just be me and Petey and the dog. And the dog would be hiding on the bed, because when Petey got about half snorted, he became real amorous and started chasing the female dog. He was an alky from the word go. He chased anything with skirts or without. And he and I get on these big drunks together. And so one day, you know, I weighed about 240 pounds at the time. And one day I was on a big drunk. Petey was passed out on the floor, and I stepped on him. And God, I mean, he just kind of flattened him out a little bit, you know. And I said, well, looked down, I picked him up, you know, and he was kind of flat, and he was quiet, and he wasn't moving. And I started crying, tears running down my face. And I said, oh, my God, I've killed my drinking buddy. You know, so I petted him a little bit and rubbed him a little bit. And so he kind of fluttered a little bit, and I said, oh, maybe he's all right. So I took him over and laid him on the table about a foot from that jigger of whiskey. I guess he got a couple of whiffs of it. He staggered up and ruffled around, went over there and started drinking again, flew around the room. I said, oh, hell, he's okay. So we was off on another drunk. You know, you got to be pretty damn sick to drink with birds, I'll tell you that. You don't hear too many people drinking with birds. But Petey became quite a legend. He used to hang over my dining room table. We used to have poker parties there. And he learned all the language of a poker party. He became quite a linguist. He could stay over, hang over that table. He'd learn things, you know, like raise 10, full house, flush, you know, and, you know, shut up and bastard and different things like that. And he could really get it on. He could call the kids in from out in the yard. He could call the dog in from out in the yard. He was really a smart little alky bird. Petey and I, that's the way we lived, though. Now, that's a pretty sick household, really. But Alice and the kids out in motels. I paid a lot of motel bills in those days. But about 3-4 times a week, she was out in the damn motel. And here I was at the house, being Petey drinking, the dog hiding on the bed. That's what we used to do. So this went on for a while. About 1957, on March the 17th, I came to on a Sunday morning. It was St. Patrick's Day. And I came to, you know, and had a horse by the leg, and I was hollering, whoa, whoa. And here I was laying on the piano, and I had the piano by the leg, screaming, yelling, hollering. I thought this horse was trying to stomp me to death. Petey laying on the floor, passed out, and the dog hiding on the bed. That's how I come to. And the phone rang. And the man on the other end of the line says, how do you feel? I said, not too good. He said, how'd you like to do something about your drinking? I said, well, I'd like to do something about it. So he came over and talked to me. He's my sponsor today. He and I had got drunk. We started drinking together in 1949. We drank a business down to the tubes together. He came to AA 6 years prior to me. Because I said, Al, you know, God damn it, you know, I was at his house the day he called AA. He called me up to come over and talk to him. His wife did. Me and this drunken attorney. So we went over, and Al, and this attorney says, you know, well, he says, you could try AA. He knew about it. I never heard of AA myself too much. Al said, well, I think I'll call him up. And I said, Al, that's pretty damn drastic, you know. Those guys don't drink at all. How in the hell are we going to have any fun together after that? And so he says, well, he called him anyway. So he's been sober ever since, from the first day he went in. So he came over and talked to me that day, that St. Patrick's Day, 17th of March, 1957. And I went to my first meeting that night. And I went to that meeting about, you know, half crocked, because I said, I'm not going down in damn drunk sober. So I got about half snorted and went in, and I heard in that meeting and sat down. The guy that I knew was chairing the meeting. He was a carpenter. And I didn't know he was a drunk, and he didn't know I was. I was in construction at the same time myself. So he got up there and he started chairing, and he says, well, if nothing else, stay here for 90 days and you'll save enough money to get on a good drunk. I said, my God, you know, that sounds about right. And so I listened to that very, very attentively. And I put that in my mind. And when I left there, in my mind, 90 days down the road, I was going to get drunk. Because I went to one meeting during that 90 days a week, sat behind a post, didn't want nobody to call on me, wouldn't talk if they did, and didn't associate with very many. Well, you know what kind of an alcoholic that is. That's an explosive alcoholic. He's swallowing everything and choking to death on it. So this 91st day rolled around, and I drove from San Jose to Salinas, which is 60 miles, to tell Al, my sponsor, that I was no longer an alcoholic, never had been, and probably never would be. I was too damn smart, too intelligent. So after listening to me for 2 hours, he said, well, Jack, if that's really the way you feel, step over to the nearest bar and try some controlled drinking. I said, thank you, Al. That's exactly what I'm going to do. And I did. Stepped right across the street, tried some controlled drinking. Well, what the hell? Hit a car on the way home. Went back out that night, my wife and I, we got on a little snort. Now, I remembered I held it pretty good for about 2 months. I didn't get any real savage drunks. But at the end of that, it just seemed like everything went to hell in a handbasket. It seemed like after that it was playing catch-up. I'd never drank so hard the next 6 months and so much and so long. All the time, just drinking. Petey was happy. I had him shut off during that 90 days, and he had one hell of a resentment. You know, but by God, he was happy to get back on the hooch again with me. We was both back again, same damn old story. Dog hiding on the bed, Petey passed out on the floor, and me drunk. Everything going on the same. So this went on for another 6 months, and on March the 5th of 1958, I was sitting on a bar stool. I'd been drunk for about 3 weeks. And I came to. And I was telling you, I could go around for hours and not know. I'd be in a blackout. But I came to sitting on that bar stool, and everything was just as clear as it is right here tonight. And I came to, and I turned around to the guy next to me, and I said, Charlie, this is my last drink. I'm going back to Alcoholics Anonymous. He says, by God, I'm going with you, because he'd been on that drunk with me. And so I got up, and I went out in the hallway, and I didn't know it was 10 o'clock at night, and I made a phone call to a guy on the program, a guy that owned the bar, really. I said, hey, Bud, I want to go to an AA meeting. He said, well, Jack, there's no AA meeting at 10 o'clock at night here in San Jose. Besides that, you haven't finished your drunk. He said, go back and finish your drunk and then call me. But I had. I called my wife and said, come get me. I'm finished. So she came and got me and took me over to my sponsor's house, and I kind of arrived there, you know, like an old drunk slob, crying and muttering in my beard and all that kind of stuff. Went in, and he said, well, that's okay, Jack. Just come on back. So after my last drink, March 6, 1958, I returned to Alcoholics Anonymous. And there was 4 of us. 3 other guys came in there with me that night. I didn't know they was all drunk with me that time, but they were. So there was 4 of us came back to AA, or came to AA that night. I was coming back. They was coming in new. And so there was 4 of us and 4 sponsors marched into the old Prune Ridge meeting like a squad of soldiers, you know. We walked in there, and I began to hear, I heard different things at that meeting that night. Different things. I heard things like, if you don't take the first drink, you'll never get drunk. I said, who ever heard of a stupid thing like that? Christ's sake, anybody would know that. But I'd spent 38 years and hadn't found it out yet. So I said, never take the first drink, you'll never get drunk. And then the other thing was to go to meetings every day, twice on Sunday, participate, make 12-step calls, pick up ashtrays, do any damn thing you had to do. Get active, get action. And so I said, I'm going to give this thing a whirl. So Charlie and I started out every night. And I was in AA 2 weeks. I had my first 12-step call. They called me up and said, Jack, there's a guy down on Vine Street down in the basement, drunk. Go get him. I said, fine. I went down my pickup truck. There the guy was laying down in the basement. You know, he was laying on a couch. His head was hanging off the couch, and his tongue was hanging out of the side of his mouth, and his eyes was wide open, staring at the ceiling. I said, Christ, this guy's dead. He's not drunk. He's dead. So I went down, picked him up, you know, I heard his heartbeat, you know, and God, he stunk so bad I couldn't stand him, because he'd let loose with everything he had. So I picked him up, and he weighed about 95, maybe 100 pounds. Wasn't a very big guy. So I picked him up, and I took him over, and they had one of these old stone wash trays in that basement. I took him on, I jammed him down that wash drain, turned the water on him, washed him off a little bit, slung him over my shoulder and took him home with me. I know nowhere else to take him. So I took him home, walked in the front door, and I said, honey, I got a sick one. She said, whew, you sure have. So she said, take him in the bathroom and get his clothes off. She said, I'll wash his clothes. Get him a bath. So I took him in the bathroom, stripped him down, shaved him, cut a little skin off his face, threw him in the tub, drew the water, and said, stay there. Threw the clothes outside and went out and sat down in the living room. Well, I was sitting out there for about 30 minutes. And it seemed to me like something like popped me up right side the head. Something's wrong. So I went in there and I looked, and here he was laying in there, you know, the water lapping up right around his chin, foam rolling out of his mouth, just pouring out of his mouth. Just, holy Christ, what's the matter with him? I looked down alongside the bathtub. There's an empty cork bottle of rubbing alcohol, that skull and crossbones on it. He drank the whole damn thing in 30 minutes. I said, Christ, he's dead now for sure. So I picked him up, slung him over my shoulder, wrapped a blanket around him. He was naked, and I took off out the door with him. I said, honey, I'm going down to see this one doctor that told me about, Dr. Lovelace. Take him down to see Dr. Lovelace. That's the only doctor we had in town. So I went down with him, marched in there with him across my shoulder, said, Doc, this guy's dying. He said, what makes you think so? I said, he drank this whole bottle of rubbing alcohol. I had the empty bottle with me. He said, oh, hell, he could drink a gallon of that. What else you been drinking, Johnny? He knew the little bastard, see? And Johnny said, I've been drinking shampoo. He was drinking shampoo and blowing bubbles, and I thought he was foaming at the mouth and dying. So I said, okay, you little bastard, there'll be a vendetta now. I'm going to sober you up if it kills you. And I slung him over my shoulder, and I took him back home with me, and I took him in, I threw him down on the couch. And by God, you know, Johnny came in and out of my house for the next 10 months. I 12-stepped him. He's still drinking. He's in a halfway house up there right now. Still drinking to this day. And I worked on him, but he kept me sober. He really did. That guy got drunk every 3 days, just regular as a clock tick, you know. And he worked. I put him to work in my cabinet shop, you know. He'd sweep the floor, do a good job of that. Then he'd see Johnny come in, he'd be drunk on a skunk. And I'd be taking him to a meeting, 12-stepping him again, you know. Didn't know any better. Them old-timers jumping up and down said, Jack, that ain't the way you do it. I said, the hell it ain't. God damn it, this is the way I'm going to do it. So I kept right on making other 12-step calls, you know, and I went out and I had a tile setter the next one I went out on, out in Santa Clara. He was out there with a 12-gauge shotgun trying to kill his wife, chasing her around through the prune orchard. And he was bloom, you know, blowing prunes off the trees. So I ran him down, took that gun away from him, took him back to his house, and he had 5 kids. I called Alice. I said, honey, what the hell you want me to do with this wife and 5 kids? She says, bring them home with you. So I took them all home with me. And they were good little kids. And I threw him in a motel. He was a crazy son of a bitch, I'll tell you. Like most of us are. You got to be a nut to be an alcoholic. You don't become an alcoholic without getting nutty. At least I've never seen one that did. Really. But that's what makes it so fun. That's why we can talk about it now. So I took this tile setter's wife, his kids home with me, and I had alcoholics in the family room, outside in the yard, in the bathtubs. I had them all over the place. The old-timers jumping up and down, that ain't the way you do it. That's not the way you do it. Damn it, you carry the message. You don't carry the alcoholic. I was beginning to get the idea. So finally, I did get the idea. But during that time, during my first 2 years in Alcoholics Anonymous, I was standing up. I had 6 months sobriety, and I had 12 babies. And I was standing up at the old Prune Ridge meeting again, and I was crying. I was telling a sad story. You know, lousy damn sponsor. Every damn one of those guys was drunk. Wasn't one of them sober. When I got all through with this sad story, an little old guy got up in the back of the room, and he says, I don't know who the hell you think you are. He says, you're not God. He says, you can't get anybody sober, and you can't keep anybody sober. But he says, you've missed the whole point of this program, you idiot. You stayed sober. I said, damned if I didn't. And I said, okay, boys, that's the way it is. We go again. So off I went, 12-stepping. And I 12-stepped by myself most of the time. I'd grab those guys in them flea-bitten hotels and drag them down those steps, their head banging on every step as I went down. One foot in each hand, you know. Sling them over my shoulder, do any damn thing. Take them to meetings. They used to call, here comes Jack. He's Gang Friday again, you know, pickup truck. But God, I'm telling you, that was wild. But I never stopped. I never thought about any damn thing else. I got out of myself. I became just interested in other people. My damn business, I don't know how in the hell the damn thing run, really. Because I was busy. I was just busy with alkies. And I had Mohawk Indians working for me, and I had Apache Indians working for me, Cherokee Indians working for me, and I'm telling you right now, they got in a big fight down the local bar. And by God, they damn near tore that thing down. But they, you know, they was alkies and didn't know it. And I was the only one sober. But this is the thing. The Indian reservation used to call me up and want me to put guys to work, and I did, because I'm part Cherokee myself. That's why, I guess, I became really had a good, strong feeling about Indians for some reason, just because I had some myself. Then I had Mexicans, and I had every damn nationality there working for me. And everybody was getting along fine, except they'd go down to the bar and raise hell, you know. I'd be sober. But this is how my life was going, and in the first 2 years, it was great. In my first 2 years, my second birthday, I went running into this little old man's house that told me that I wasn't God. I went running into his house and said, Newt, today I've been sober 2 years. He says, so what? So's my damn cat laying over on the floor. He said, sit down and shut up. And he was sick in a wheelchair. And I was a big man, strong man, but I couldn't hit him. He was too damn sick to hit. He'd been a Jesuit priest. And they kicked him out of the priesthood because of his alcoholism. He said, sit down and shut up. First time I ever invited him over to my house, I was sitting in my living room. And I was telling him my story, and he said, shut up. Nobody wants to listen to that crap of yours. He'd get away with it. I hated his goddamn guts. But I grew to love him because he was the guy that told me exactly how it was. He says, you shut up and listen. He says, you know, you've been running all over this town two-stepping. I was known as Jack the Two-Stepper. Part of the first and part of the 12th, and the rest of it in the middle of the hell with him. That's for everybody else. So he started talking to me. He said, you know, Jack, if you want to find the greatest way to live that's ever been given to mankind, the greatest way to live, the greatest way of life, he says, it's right here in this book, this one. And so he sat down, he talked to me that afternoon. I had grew to love him by then. Him and his cat both. And he talked to me about these things. That said, if you really want to live, this is how you do it. And about this time, Petey, my bird, died. He died with two years of sobriety. Fell off his perch. He must have had a heart attack. Just thunk one day, just fell off. Didn't talk very much after he sobered up. Seemed like he had a resentment all the time. I'd put him on my shoulder, he'd bite me all the time. I guess he was asking for a drink. That's the only way he knew how to do it. But I went home that night after this man had talked to me about our big book. And I became interested in that big book. I began to study it. I began to read it and study it. And he told me, he says, you know, if you read this book and study it, he says, from here, he says, you'll get the program. So you'll get the program. So I did. I went home and I started studying our big book. And lo and behold, you know, there's a lot of things in that book. I'll share some of them with you tonight. In page 25, you'll find out that these old boys back in those days knew what pride was, even. They talk about it on page 25 of our big book that says, you know, the leveling of the pride is solution to our problem. And none of us like the humiliating experiences that this required, but this is required for the successful consummation of the rest of the program. Well, I don't know much about you guys, but required means to me like must. So if you don't catch page 25, you ain't going to make it on the rest. And you'll hear that there's no must in AA, but I'm going to tell you right now there's some damn well betters. Some damn well betters. And that's one of them. Because it said if we'll level our pride, then we'll be rocketed into a fourth dimension of living we never knew existed. And I can testify to that. And leveling your pride doesn't mean destroying it. It doesn't mean killing it, because you can't. I don't know if anybody's ever been able to kill their pride anyway. They say alcoholics have no pride. They say we have no willpower. Like hell we don't. It takes a lot of hard doing to stay drunk for 24 years. A lot of willpower. But you can't use the damn stuff unless you use it the right way. In the early part of our program, the member that sobered up in Santa Clara County, the first member that was sober, Mickey Carter, he went back to New York, and he was on the Fibber McGee show. This was 1941 or 42. He was on the Fibber McGee show, and Fibber asked him, says, Mickey, why don't you guys use your willpower? He says, Fibber, willpower becomes soluble in alcohol. That's why we can't use it. It doesn't work. And so in our big book, it tells us that willpower used in the correct way is fine. Willpower used it the way we did, no. But it takes a lot of willpower for a drunk to stay drunk. I'll tell you right now, it did for me. I get up sick, hang on to that old bowl, and fall out the door, and getting wrecks and all that kind of stuff. God damn, that's a lot of hard work. I'd like hell to do that again. And so this is how I started out on our book called Alcoholics Anonymous. And in chapter 3, I met Jack Holt, the alcoholic, right there in black and white, in black words. I met me face to face. I got acquainted with me in chapter 3. In chapter 4, the old agnostic taught me what it was to... Because every one of us come here either a skeptic, an agnostic, or an atheist. Practically every one of us. I was a skeptic. And those old boys says, they were too. And it goes on in there, it tells us around page 55, 54, and 56, all about the fact that how they couldn't trust their own logic, they couldn't trust their own reasoning. It kept getting them in trouble. They could get up to the shore, but they couldn't get out of the boat until they looked deep within themselves. And they found this thing. And they called it the great reality. They looked deep within themselves. And how many of us have went all over the world looking for God? And a bunch of drunk agnostics tell us where it's at. Deep within ourselves. We found this thing called the great reality. You can hear people climbing mountains and climbing steeples and going every place to find God. The only thing is, he's never been lost. He never changes his address. We are always moving around. I read a poem one time when I was drunk, and I don't remember where it was. I have no idea. I don't even know who wrote it. Might have been anonymous. I don't know. But it just talks. This guy was talking about in his search for God. How he sailed the widest seas. He climbed the highest mountains. He even climbed the tallest steeple he could find. And when he got all the way to the top, he found out to his dismay that God was still down with the people. That's where he's at, with us. So all you got to do is turn your eyeballs around, look inside. And don't play like a slot machine wheel. Look around, stay, look inside a little while. So I found this thing, the great reality. And if there's anything that's foreign to an alcoholic, it's reality. And that's something he don't like. And God is reality. Higher power is reality. Maybe some of you new guys don't like God here tonight. That's okay. A lot of us arrive here the same way. It didn't seem to bother him a damn bit when I was running around out there doubting him and all this kind of stuff. He just kept running the universe, and I kept beating my head on the wall. So finally I got tired of that. In chapter 5, it tells us how to do this. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Thoroughly followed our path. Not paths. A lot of us come here, there's got to be another way. What the hell, these guys have been operating for 50 years. That's out of date. 5 years ago, one of my babies called me up and said, hey, sponsor, by God, he said, this book was written 45 years ago and it's out of date and I'm going to go out and change it. I say, I'll see you when you get back. And he got drunk. He came back. There's always, they build freeways across this nation of ours. 8 lanes wide, 6 lanes wide. That's the easiest way to get from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific, or vice versa. But you'll find some guys off down in the bramble bushes, bellowing at the moon, saying there's got to be another way. This ain't the right one. This is the right one. You new guys, just follow this path in here. The guy called me here a couple of years ago, and he says, hey, Jack, I wasn't his sponsor. He says, you know something? He says, my program isn't working. I said, who in hell ever told you your damn program would work anyway? That's the one that got you here. Why in the hell don't you try the program, the one in the book? That works for everybody. Your program and my program isn't worth a damn. Kick them out the window. The minute I get my program involved in this program, I'll tell you right now, it goes to pot. Because my pride, my ego, my great intellectual stuff that I know, that gets in the way. And it can if I let it. I found out here on this book, the first 164 pages of this book is the greatest way to live a man could ever find. And so as it went on, in chapter 5 it talks about there's only two kinds of people that come here that are not successful with this program, or the ones who cannot accept these simple teachings, or the ones who will not. If you cannot, I feel sorry for you. Can't do nothing for you. But if you will not, you're an egotistical jackass with an inferiority complex. By God, then you got something to work on. I've been working on that for a long time. Just figure that out real quick and get to work on it. As I lived in this program and studied this book, it goes on to tell us, one day I was reading this first page of chapter 5, and a little word jumped off of it at me, a little two-letter word. It said, if you have decided you want what we have, and you're willing to go to any length to get it, what the hell is it? They don't explain it. They just put a little hyphen behind it so you stop. It. What the hell is it? So I started doing a search for it. And it's been a good long search. Still going. It's great. Get on it. There's a lot of people who want this program. But it doesn't say if you want it. It says if you've decided that you want it. You've got to make a decision. And it goes on to tell us that if you have decided you want what we have and you're willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps, and some of these we balked. Anybody out here balking at the steps tonight? Hell, I balked at them. As I told you, I was a two-stepper. Half of the first and half of the 12th, and hell with everything in the middle. But by God, I'll tell you, you can stay sober that way, but I'll tell you right now, it's not the best way. Just being sober isn't living. It's better than the others. But damn, why not go out and get it all? Why not get the spiritual program? Why not become a member of a fellowship of the Spirit? That's what this is, the fellowship of the Spirit. You new guys, that's what you started to belong to tonight, is the fellowship of the Spirit. And I never found that anywhere but AA. And I belong to a hell of a lot of organizations. But I never had one that called itself the fellowship of the Spirit. Never before. And I love it. Because it means that we're not involved in money matters, political matters, religious matters, and all that kind of stuff. We become a member of the fellowship of the Spirit. We're free, happy, and joyous. That's what's good about it. Happy, joyous, and free. Alcoholics can be happy, joyous, and free. There's people out there who tell you that's impossible after living with us for a while. And I don't blame them. We have a disease. But I'll tell you this much. This disease, I'm glad I've got this disease if I got to have one. But I don't know of any others you can stand around and talk about what we do tonight, dying 99,000 times and laughing about it. That's what we do. You go down here at your local venereal clinic, you ain't going to find them laughing down there about their disease. I'll tell you that right now. They'll be hiding their faces and running out the door and jumping in their car and whizzing down the road. Not us. Hell no, I'm an alcoholic, by God, and I found a way to stay sober. And I want to tell the world about it. That's us. That old bell clappers are going, you know, that tongue of ours. But it's going the good way when we sober up here and start carrying the message. And that's all we can do is carry the message. The old-timers finally got me to realize that. I couldn't carry the alcoholic. All I do is carry the message. And that's what we do in Alcoholics Anonymous. We teach mostly by example. If you keep coming to these meetings, you keep seeing guys around with the same face, see them coming in there night after night, week after week, month after month, year after year. You see that son of a gun coming in with clear eyes, bushy tail, walking with a spring in his step, and a good firm grip. You can say almost, son of a gun, he's telling the truth. He's staying sober. He's not running down to Las Vegas and getting drunk. That's what makes it real. When you see all the people around you staying sober. It gives you hope. It gives you something that nobody else ever given you. You don't have to stand alone anymore. You can stand with us. You can stand in the middle of us, and by God, we'll prop you up till you stand on your own feet. That's what AA does. It alters your attitude toward people, places, things, and circumstances. And you become a member of this fellowship of the Spirit, and don't you ever forget it. That's what you are tonight, a member of the fellowship of the Spirit. And as we get on down in this chapter 5, it says, there's one has all power, that one is God, may you find him now. Some of us tried to hold on to our old ideas. And the result was nil until we let go absolutely. We stood at a turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. These are the steps we took. Not memorized, took. As I approached that first step this way, I knew what I was doing. It didn't scare me when I got to it. Right then and there. Admit you're powerless over alcohol. My life had become unmanageable. Powerless. You ask the newcomer coming through that door over there, you think you're powerless over alcohol? Most of them will say no. Because we're just Americans. We're rebels. Ask him after he's got to the first step. He'll say yes. Admitted we were powerless over alcohol. If you admit you're powerless over something, you're not very apt to go out and attack it. Be damned if I'm going to go attack Muhammad Ali when I know who he is. No way. And if there's a female polar bear out there in that foyer, I'm not apt to go out and try to rape her as long as I know she's a female polar bear. Unless I'm drunk. So this is what we get involved in here. We come involved in reality. The thing that we talked about back over there on page 55. Reality. To us, reality was something we hid from. I hid from it for many years. I don't really want to know the truth. I really don't want to know what the truth is. So I used alcohol as an escape. And the first step says also my life had become unmanageable. I tried to figure out life. And life is a big word to figure out, I'll tell you. Especially when you're a dumb cat like me, in a lot of ways. But if you look in a dictionary, I found out Webster has a hell of a lot of definitions for words I don't understand. He does a good job explaining them. I look in the dictionary and I look out for the word life. And another definition of the word life is thought. My thinking had become unmanageable. That I could buy. My thinking. Change my attitude. Alter my attitude. When a guy admits he's powerless over alcohol, his great friend, John Barleycorn, whipped him, let him down, kicked him out, and his life has become unmanageable, you know, he's in pretty bad shape. But the way we designed our program, or those old boys did, they said they come in right away with the second step. Said, came to believe that a power greater than we are could restore us to sanity. Great. We came to, and we came to believe. That a power greater than I am can restore me to sanity. A lot of people come to AA, don't believe in God. We know that. That's fine. But I think one day God looked out upon this earth and he says, you know, I've got a bunch of people living on that planet Earth that won't listen to nobody. They won't listen to my preachers. They won't listen to my minister. They won't listen to my judges. They won't listen to my doctors, my psychiatrists, my head shrinks, nobody. So to hell with them. I'll turn them loose upon one another. And he started AA. That's how we got going. He had to have us. He had to have us as a helper. There's no group of people living on the face of the earth like alcoholics. No way. Just isn't. That's why we're so interesting. People are always trying to figure out what the hell we're doing. You go ask the president of IBM how we run AA, and he says, you're absolutely stupid. You have no organization that can run like that. You got to have a wheel. With AA, we know what dogs do to wheels, so we don't want to become wheels. So we get involved with this thing, you know. I love it. I really do. I love this program, the Fellowship of the Spirit. I really do. Because it saves lives. We deal in human lives. And we deal with alcohol. Cunning, baffling, and powerful. And damn it to hell, we deal with it. We don't just talk about it. We deal with it. And every man and woman that's an alcoholic has to deal with it. He has to meet it face on. And then we get involved with these things called compulsions and obsessions of the mind. And after we drink, we get involved with the allergies of the body. But the compulsion of the mind, and we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, and powerful. And damn it to hell, we deal with it. We don't just talk about it. We deal with it. And every man and woman that's an alcoholic has to deal with it. He has to meet it face on. And then we get involved with these things called compulsions and obsessions of the mind. And after we drink, we get involved with the allergies of the body. But the compulsion of the mind, the obsessions, these kind of things, don't ever stand up and try to fight temptation head on. It'll whip you every time. Because you know why? It's got no muscles. It never gets tired. It hits you every day, wham, wham, and it never tires out. But what does the program say to do? Turn immediately, make a right turn, just like that, or a left turn, one or the other. Ask God for help. We cease fighting people, places, things, even including alcohol. And we ask for help. That's a message. We don't have to stand up and fight these temptations, these compulsions, and these obsessions. Ask God for help. I've never seen him turn anybody down. Dr. Bob said, your Heavenly Father will never let you down. He left that message in the big book. So I learned to admit in step 1, I learned to believe in step 2. And I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God, as I understood him in step 3. And the reason why I had so much trouble with step 3, because that is the key to Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the key to getting in here and the key to staying in here. And the reason I had so much trouble with that, until I did the first 2 steps in front of it, then I had no trouble. I was able to make that decision to turn my life and my will over to the care of God, as I understood him, because I trusted him then. It all to do with trust. The third step is to do with trust. And why I had trouble with it was because I didn't trust me, and I didn't trust anybody else. And as I looked at that step and read it and tried to figure it out, one day it just hit me upside the head. Who is big enough to actually turn your life and your will over to? There's only one, that's God. I wouldn't turn it over to you birds, I'll tell you that. No way. I don't know of any group of people I'd turn it over. And damn, if I want to turn it back over to me, because I goofed it up already. Once, I don't want that anymore, so I turned it over to God. I made that decision a long time ago. And since then, I've been able to play, been able to work, been able to go to AA meetings and give talks and listen and learn and do all the things that alcoholics do when they're sober. It's a great life. It really is. You know, like you can pray for anything you want. Like a lot of guys, you know, in prayer they say, you know, don't pray for anything. Every time I pray today, I just tell God what I want. I used to pray for peace, world peace, and everybody else, and never did pray for me. I always felt funny when I got through praying. Felt like a phony. Because I'd be sitting there, you know, praying all of these things, there'd be a Cadillac sitting in the back of my mind. So finally I said, hey, Father, I'd like to have a Cadillac. You can see your way clear, which may, you know. So you'd be surprised. 6 months later, there'd be one around the way, too. Now, he didn't never bring anything like a helicopter and sit it down in my driveway. And he won't yours either, but I'll tell you right now, by God, you'll get a job. You'll go to work and you'll earn the damn thing. That's how he does it. So I don't mess around anymore. I just tell him what I want and accept what he gives me. That way I get along real good. See, I don't have none of that problem, all that other stuff anymore. Keep it simple, stupid. That old man finally got through to me, see? Keep it simple, stupid. That's it. Simple program. This is a simple program for complicated people. It's not a complicated program for simple people, I'll tell you that right now. God, I love it. I really do. I'm a member of the Fellowship of the Spirit. By God, you got to love it. If you don't, you just go out the door saying it don't work. But you don't have to go out the door saying it don't work. Just stay here. It will work. Hi, Hugh. Hi. Good to see you. A lot of faces I see right now. Got to keep it clean, straight. God, I'm telling you. And after the third step, you say, that ought to be enough. But it isn't. He said, now clean up your act. He gives the fourth step. Made a fearless and searching moral inventory of me. Well, probably most of us make a fearful and search less at first. Standing in a square room and squeaking a round circle and make sure we don't bother the corners. That ain't a 4th step. My people say, why do you have to write it down? And I know one thing. If you write it down, you go back there tomorrow, it still reads the same way. I used to tell my sponsor, I said, you know, I know everything that ever did wrong. I know all these things about me. He said, I know. He says, yeah, I know you do. In about 5 minutes, that mind of yours starts going and says, by God, you changed it all around, too. You write it down. That way, you go back tomorrow, why, it still reads the same way. And it does. Everybody's afraid of the 4th step. Why? It's the greatest liberating step we got. It liberates you from yourself. And that's been our enemy all the time. We found the enemy, and he is us. That's what it is. Yeah. Fighting all the time. Who would fight? Fighting us. People don't fight us out there. The cops don't fight us. Churches don't fight us. We fight ourselves all the time. God. So, as I lived and learned in this program, in this 4th step, just tell your life story. That's all you got to do. Don't flower it up. Don't put anything in there that don't belong in there. Don't leave anything out that does. Be honest with yourself. Remember, there's only you and God on your 4th step, nobody else. So you can just sit down there and just go like hell on it, you know. Nobody's going to look over your shoulder and say that's wrong or that's right. And when you get through the 4th step, you're 2/3 of the way through the 5th, the one you've been scared of all the time anyway. You've already told yourself and God all about it in the 4th step. All you got to do is look up some brown-eyed old man or woman and go tell them about all these things you wrote down. It takes a lot of guts. But by God, listen to something. You become a member of the program that says unless we have the capacity to be honest, which means the guts to be honest, we ain't going to make it anyway. So you might as well get on it. Approach that 5th step. Made to God, to ourselves, another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. You notice how AA uses wrongs, never use sins, things like that. Start talking about sins in this room, you have an empty room real quick. You can talk about wrongs like that, you know, nuts, no problem. But by God, don't be talking about that other stuff. No way. That's good. The 5th step. When you take that, you feel a load lift off of you. I felt a load lift off my back. Felt like I wasn't carrying the universe anymore. Really. Then after I went home and sat down like the book says and spent an hour with myself and found out I'd done a good job, 5th step. Took a 6th step. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. In the big book it says, God take all of me, the good and the bad. Ain't that, guys? You don't have to be perfect, see? The good and the bad. Take all of me, the good and the bad, and use me as you will. And the 7th step is humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. We had a meeting the other day on the 7th step. A lot of guys, kids, are trying to figure out, how do you be humble? I said, well, don't start talking about it, because if you do, you just lost it. However, the minute you start asking, you're humble. The minute you start telling God, you're not. If you tell Him what to do, you're not. When you're asking Him, you're humble. The minute you put yourself in an asking position, you're humble. That's all there is to it. No big deal. They didn't put that in there to goof us up. It just says humbly ask Him, which means you just ask. You don't go around and say, I'm going to humbly ask you. He'll probably say, what are you doing, you nut? And the 8th step made a list of all the people I had harmed, became willing to make amends to them all. You can sit there for 20 years on that step trying to get willing if you want to. But you can also do what it says. Make a list of the people you've harmed. Sit down. Write that list down. You'll find those people on there, the dirty rats did more to me than I did to them. Damn if I'm going to make amends to that guy. No way. But you will. And you'll become willing too, but you may not do it the first night. Because they bring the 9th step in immediately, and you go out and start making direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so will injure them or others. Which means you don't go out and tell a guy you've been sleeping with his wife. God damn it. That's dangerous. Right. You go out and you make amends to everybody that you can, except when it'll hurt them or others, and sometimes yourself. Because you got to remember, you have hurt no one any more than you have hurt yourself if you're an alcoholic. You had better put yourself at the top of the list, because that's where you belong. We hurt ourselves more than we hurt anybody. The ones we love the most are the ones we hurt the most. And we are people. And we love ourselves. I don't give a damn if you stand up here and say, I do not love myself. I say, bull crap. If you didn't, you'd already be dead. A lot of people go, God don't love me. I said, if he didn't, he'd already zapped you off of this earth. You're here because he wants you to be here, not because you want to be here. All you got to do is look back through the Bible. You look back through the Bible, you'll find a lot of things in the Bible that parallel with us. In fact, all of them. You'll find a lot of things. In this ninth step, just go out and do it. When you get through, then you can walk through that arc to freedom. When I did that ninth step, my past became history. And you can't do a damn thing about history. You can't change a word, you can't change an act, and you can't change a deed. But you can accept it. If you can't change it, you accept it. And that's what makes you free. All of a sudden you accept yourself. Every newcomer comes into Alcoholics Anonymous, comes here with 3 trucks loads of guilt, just stacked all over him or her. Guilt, guilt, guilt. How in the hell do you get rid of guilt? Forgive yourself for the things you've already done, and quit doing the things that make you feel guilty, and I'll guarantee you won't have any more guilt. I don't know if anybody's ever been able to do that, but it's a hell of a good goal to shoot for. But just stop and think about it. People say, well, I can't forgive myself. I said, well, do you pray to God to forgive you? Well, sure I do. Well, what the hell makes you think you can expect him to forgive you? You think you're bigger than he is? If he can forgive you, why can't you forgive yourself? You're not all that bad. So this is when you walk through that arc to freedom. You become a free man. I can look back at my past right now and it doesn't bother me one damn bit. Because it's just that. It's just history. Everything has a history. Even our great country called the United States of America has a history. And some of it isn't so damn pretty either. Every human being has a history, and some of that isn't so pretty either, whether they're alcoholic or not. All of us have got the skeletons in the closet, except us alcoholics had to kick them out and expose them so the sun could shine on them, so they'd quit rotting, stinking, bothering us. We cannot afford resentments and things of that nature. We get drunk. That's what happens to us. So what do? We use the steps. You know, some of us come to AA, we want to start at the top. That's fine. No problem. But I'll tell you right now, the only place you start at the top, that's digging a hole. When you get that hole dug deep enough, you get down in the bottom deep enough, and you swim around in your own crap long enough, then you got to start digging some steps to get out. That's what we've been talking about tonight. You start digging them steps in the side of that wall, and you start climbing. You start climbing out. And you start loving other people. And you start putting yourself out there for other people, not expecting a damn thing in return. But you get so much back that you can't even explain it. You get rocketed into that way of living that you never knew existed. That fourth dimension. When we become involved with these things that we talk about, the spiritual way of life. Spirituality is action. Spirituality is sitting up here in a cave being a monk. I'll tell you that right now. You didn't see that carpenter, that fellow called Christ. You didn't see him sitting up a cave being a monk. You saw him down among the people, working with people, telling them that's the way to go. That's what we do. We become his messengers, whether we like it or not. If you become a sober and Alcoholics Anonymous, you're going to carry his message. You might as well start in quick. The longer you wait, the harder he's going to kick you. Start in quick. Carrying the message. A lot of guys say, you hear some of this mealy-mouthed crap about AA now sometimes, don't make a major decision for the first year in the program. Well, hell, you had to make one to get in here. Christ's sake. We never got started if Bill and Bob had to make a major decision by every time we went out and called on a drunk. Get the hell out there and get a wet drunk in each arm. You'll be balanced as you walk up and down the road, yelling at that son of a bitch to sober up. We have a program of action, not sitting around yapping at one another all the time. This thing is action from the very word go. That's what keeps you sober, is the action. That's why we stay sober. People ask me how many babies I got. I say, I don't know. Don't care. Just keep on coming. One of my babies tells me, I've got more babies than the Mexican family on welfare. That's all I had to do. I said, that's right. You damn right. Take them. Use them. And the 10th step, when we got all through that 9th step, we got to, seemed like they said, well, now that we got these guys through the 9th step, we got to do something to keep them busy or they'll all be back hot drunk again. So they gave us the 10th step. Continue to take our personal inventory, and when we're wrong, promptly admit it. Well, I'll tell you, promptly to me used to be about 3 months. 3 weeks, 3 days, 3 hours. Sometimes right now it's just like that. To everybody except my wife, Alice. Sometimes I get a little bit proud with her. Now, goddamn it, dear, you know something? I'm the boss. She said, like hell you are. But we love one another. And we have a lot of fun together. And the 10th step, continue to take personal inventory. In that step, if you'll study that step in the 12 of 12 for 30 days and read it every day for 30 days, your life will change. Because in there you'll learn about self-persecution, self-righteousness, constructive criticism, all these kinds of things. You learn about them. You learn you don't have to use them. You probably will, but you don't have to. That 10th step just keeps us rolling right on. Man, I'll tell you. That step, I use it every day of my life. Every night when I lay my head upon the pillow, I ask myself one question. Have you hurt anybody today? And most of the time during the day, if I hurt somebody, like I say, just like that, I can say I'm sorry. Or I can rectify the wrong that I've done. But once in a while, I'll get really proud, and I won't. And the next day, I'm sick all night. I don't sleep. The older you are in this program, the hotter the fire. I'll tell you that right now. That's what it teaches you. You know the difference between right and wrong. And you learn to use them. 11th step, the number one goal in my life, seeking through prayer and meditation for a closer conscious contact with God as I understand Him. Praying only for knowledge of His will for me and the power to carry that out. Seeking through prayer and meditation. When I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, like I'll tell you a while ago, I prayed, wrote prayers, all this kind of stuff. Didn't mean any good thing to me. Meditation for the new guy is tough because he's got quick muscles and he can't sit very long, very still. But you start practicing 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds. First thing you know, you can get up there, you can meditate for a minute. That's a long time for a new man. Most of us, when we come here, you put a pillowcase in each hand, we can fly over the moon. Real quick. But that step, seeking through this prayer and meditation, that keeps me busy. Every time I come up to one of these places and have to talk, I pray a lot. I tell you. Because I have to pray a lot. Because I have weak knees just like everybody else. I've been here a long time, and I've done a lot of this. But every time I get up one of these blasted things here, you start to get nervous. You look at that thing, somebody's going to hear me. I wonder if I'm going to be right. I wonder how many times I'm going to lie. I wonder how many times I'm going to stretch the truth. And I see out here, Don's here, Hugh's here, Johnny's here. How many guys here? Hell, I got to tell the truth. Gene's here. And other than that, but you can also tell when a guy's lying in AA. You can spot it real quick because something happens to his eyes when he starts lying. Some kind of a film goes over him. He looks the other way. He never looks you straight in the eye when he starts lying. And isn't that great? It really is. The 12th step. First sentence in the 12th step is the answer to the little word it. Having had a spiritual awakening. That's it. And as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics who still suffer and practice these principles in all of our affairs. Carrying the message is something I love to do. Tonight just hasn't been a time when I have to talk and you have to listen. Or at least I hope you listened. Next time it'll be the other way around. I'll listen and you talk. That's the way it is. Because without talking in Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, we wouldn't get very far. But I'll tell you right now, I lay a lot of jokes, and the reason I don't go to church because they don't call on me. That isn't the reason, but that makes a hell of a good line. I love us, I really do. You have become a member of the fellowship of the Spirit. So in the 12th step, we keep carrying this message to the alcoholic who still suffers. And there's a lot of alcoholics suffering and they're not drunk. They're sober and suffering because they're buried in self-pity. They're buried in remorse. They're buried in these kind of things. You know how to get rid of self-pity? Walk into your bathroom and sit down on the stool and carry a mirror with you about 2 foot square and take some toilet paper off. Put it on the top of your head and look at yourself in that mirror and you'll start laughing. And then flush the toilet. You will laugh. And you cannot feel self-pity if you laugh. You start to worrying. What do you do about worry? Take whatever you're worrying about and sit it on the table. I'm going to worry about you for 5 minutes. And sit down there and deliberately try to worry about it. Within 5 seconds, you'll be laughing. You know why? It is impossible to worry intentionally. You can't do it. So you might as well forget all about this damn thing called worry. This stuff called self-pity. This stuff called remorse. You see these guys running around, you know, long-faced alcoholics. Damn it to hell, you haven't had a drink for a week or a month or a year, and you start saying, Christ almighty, I'm terrible. Anybody sit in this room tonight sober? I don't give a damn if you got 1 day, 1 year, or 30 years, or whatever it is. You are lucky. Because there ain't very many percentages of us alcoholics and addicts out there today that ever get here at all. And you damned addicts don't get off either. You may think you got a highfalutin damn disease. Well, you're the nuttiest bunch of damn people I ever 12-stepped in my life. And I 12-step a lot of you. You call you dual purpose. You ain't kidding. One ear is pointed north and one south. Really? But I love you anyway. I got a lot of you up there in San Jose. Dual purpose boys. Only 12-step men, not women. I'll tell you that right now. And God damn it, if you come in here, you do the same thing. 13-step where it gets people in a lot of damn trouble along the way. Find yourself in strange places with familiar people. You have become a member of the fellowship of the Spirit, and by golly, you had better treat it that way. If you don't, it will kick your ass all over this universe. And you'll wish you had never seen it. When you go back out and drink again, I'm going to tell you right now, it's tough to get back. A hell of a lot tougher than staying here. So keep what you've got right now and don't go back out there again. Keep it right now. And I don't give a damn what comes down on you. You don't drink. And you don't shoot. And you don't zip. And you don't pop. You don't flip or whatever. You don't snort. That damn stuff makes you goofier than a pet coon, I'll tell you. A guy called me up and said, I just had a marijuana cigarette. I said, you just started your sobriety date over again, too. A lot of people said, I had 5 years off of liquor. How many years you got off of marijuana? 1 day. I said, you got 1 day sobriety. He said, I don't like that. I said, I'll give a damn whether you like it or not. If I'm going to be your sponsor, that's the way it is. If you don't want me as a sponsor, then damn it to hell, get going. But that's the way it is. You can't be sober, goddammit, unless you're free of all this crap. And I never had a damn bit of it. I never knew what the damn stuff was until you guys start bringing it around. I'd been sober quite a few years. I had 90 days on a program, and I had to 12-step a guy that was a pill head. He had a gallon jar of pills, and I thought they were vitamins. He'd take hand fill them damn things, and I would know what the hell he was doing. He'd be driving a car, you know, and be looking. I said, what the hell's wrong with you? We was in the real estate business together. And I didn't know he was a damned addict. I can say damned addict like a damned alcoholic. It doesn't mean anything to me. I love all of you. That's what this program is all about, is love. If you love your fellow man, you can't help but serve him. If you serve your fellow man, you can't help but love him. This I learned in Alcoholics Anonymous. Love is the greatest power on the face of the earth. It'll move things that hate will never move. It'll conquer hate. It'll conquer all of the things you have inside of you. This rowling and boiling and doing all these kind of things. It'll conquer them. It'll kick them right out of you. Love will do that. Because when you love, you think not of yourself so much as you do the other. That's what it's about. Love and service are the two great principles of Alcoholics Anonymous. The greatest principles on the face of the earth is love and service. And those are the things that we practice here all of the time. All of the time. Because we have to. And we don't do it because we have to. We do it because we feel good when we do it. That's the beauty of it. Thank you. God bless you. I love you. And keep coming.